What is going on, guys? This is Hold the Door DFS at Fantasy Sports Insight. We are going to get into the first game here on Sunday of our wild card weekend with the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans. It is a loaded stud slate, a little bit different than what we had today with a couple backup quarterbacks playing and just a lot of bizarre injury news with Ronald Jones being ruled out technically, I guess, after questionable after warmups, but never saw the field. I would love to get another Taylor Heineke at 6K. Like he's obviously smashing his price tag. So, yeah, let's get into the slate. We got Derrick Henry. We have Lamar Jackson. We have Ryan Tannehill. We have AJ Brown. We have all these studs. We got Hollywood Brown. Can't get them all, but this game is expected to be pretty high scoring, actually. 54.5. Over under with a 3-point favorite going to the Ravens. Honestly, I'm not going to try to game script too much here. I think both teams are going to stay competitive. And we even know like the Titans are willing to run the ball when they're down like one or two scores in the second half. They're not just going to abandon it until it is like an absolutely dire need. So I think that you definitely still target Henry in this situation. So let's get into it. Let's start on the Baltimore side first. Who is favored? Fix this. Lamar Jackson, obviously 12,000, one of the most expensive players on the slate, and probably will be the most popular. Him and Henry, I assume, will gain the most ownership. I like him a ton. He's going to use his legs, I think, even more in the playoffs, especially if he gets into situations that are a little bit uncomfortable for Baltimore. So I think then they just naturally rely on his ability to just run the ball. We kind of saw that like in the playoff type atmosphere game against Cleveland where they were down late. They needed him to come up with some big plays. He came off, got injured, and then came back and, was the superhero. So I think he lives for the games like that. J.K. Dobbins was obviously really good against Cincinnati and has been really good since they've kind of like named him the lead back. I still think he needs a touchdown at least. And even at a touchdown at 10,000, I still prefer Ryan Tannehill. I prefer Derrick Henry and I prefer Lamar Jackson. So I don't know that I'm going to get to a lot of J.K. Dobbins here in cash. Just because the 10 to 15 carries isn't really enough for me. It's a little bit different than Jonathan Taylor. That slate, like after Taylor and Rivers, it was like nothing at all. We have a lot of really good and expensive options here as well. So we have Hollywood Brown at 8,800, who's been on an absolute tear since, I don't know, he had a really, what is it, week 12? He's had double digits in every week since then. He's had touchdowns in every game except for one. I think at 8,800, you're getting a discount to him, where I prefer him over Dobbins for the $1,200 savings. I don't think he's a must, but I do like him quite a bit. And then you even get another savings of 1,600 going down to Mark Andrews, who has been in double digits in the last, 1, 2, 3, 5 of the last 6 games. And not all those are touchdown dependent games. So he will get him the ball either way. Does not need that touchdown. 7,200 is a really nice play for the price to pair with somebody like Lamar Jackson. Going down here, Willie Snead is questionable. As I've thought, most questionable guys were playing this week. We had Goff that didn't start. Alex Smith didn't play. Then we have Evans, who is playing and playing really well. So I think, in general here, I think he probably plays. And then that makes, I think, Boykin way too expensive at 4,800. Gus Edwards, though, I think is somebody to definitely consider at 4,400. I love, obviously, Justin Tucker, but I think Edwards has enough upside. They are throwing him the ball at times. He is getting carries. I think he has enough upside at 4,400 to be definitely in play over the kickers if you have that little extra salary to get back up to someone like him. Des Bryant is a no-go for me. Tucker, one of the best kickers of all time, is definitely in play for me here in a playoff game. Ravens defense is okay. I think there's points here, quite a bit of them actually. Uh, Justice Hill is a stay away. Ingram, 1200. I don't really. He's just not really getting touches right now. It's mainly Dobbins and Edwards. Duvernay, if Snead is out, Duvernay might get a little bit of a bump, but I don't really like him at that price either. So, or I don't really like him at all. He's cheap, but I don't really like him. So, let's go to the Tennessee side. Um, Derrick Henry, 11,600. Obviously, 2,000-yard rusher. It's just he's a phenomenal play. I think in any showdown slates, when there's that much of a condensed volume opportunity going to somebody like him, it's really hard to fade. And then even Ryan Tannehill, like the guy has just proven so many people wrong. Not only that he can use his legs really well, he has, and this is a little bit hard to predict here. He's going to have 2 rushing touchdowns, one, and do 5 in his last 3 games. I don't think that that's likely. I don't think Tannehill is a must, but I do think I prefer him as an option, definitely over J.K. Dobbins for 400 more. You could go down to somebody like A.J. Brown, who has also been just phenomenal lately and, was great last week in that shootout against Houston. Big playability. You could even just, if you want part of the passing game, maybe just go to A.J. Brown and fade Tannehill. So I think he can easily match or outscore Tannehill. Corey Davis, 8,000, not somebody I'm going to land on here. Just too inconsistent and too expensive in a slate where I'd much rather pay for Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews in that spot. Going down here, Janu Smith, 6,200, just a little bit too expensive for my liking. I think he's okay. Again, just falls in an awkward range where I'd rather get up to Andrews or rather go down to like Gus Edwards. Gostowski is definitely in play at 3,400. Titans defense, 2,800 is mega cheap, but I don't, I don't love it. You might get an interception out of Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't take sacks very often. So it's not really that great of a high upside play. You'd likely need like a defensive touchdown. Ferksker is somebody that's in play, I guess, at 1,400. I doubt he gets 0. But I don't think that, you're going to see a great game out of him unless they are really losing by quite a bit and they are able to throw the ball. My last guy I will mention down here is Batson. He is 200. Whoops. And I think that, he's played sparingly. I think he's ahead of Raymond. So I think he's like the 3rd receiver, but they use, Janu Smith a lot. I don't know. I don't know if you'll need it, but if you do, that might be a place to go. So let's get into a build. I'm going to say my two favorite cash plays here are obviously Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. Then I think you are deciding between guys like Tannehill, AJ Brown, Mark Andrews, or Hollywood Brown. So let's just, I think a lot of people will use Lamar Jackson and captain, fire in Derrick Henry. And just at this point now, even if you wanted to use Tannehill, you're really restrictive, to a certain extent. So if you go down to say somebody like AJ Brown, which still gives you access to their passing game, you can certainly lock in both kickers, which I think is definitely a good strategy here. It does put you a little bit short of getting back up to Gus Edwards. So you would potentially maybe you go like AJ Brown captain or something else. If you want to do something a little bit crazy like this, and I think people do it and it's viable, Tucker captain, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. I think you can get Tannehill and AJ Brown, yes, and then you just like take a 0 or take Batson or take maybe Duvernay. Catches the ball. Hasn't in a while, but it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. You could also go somebody cheaper than Tannehill too, and maybe you want to go down to a receiving option like Hollywood Brown. Then you're at least up to Ferksker, who who's going to play. And then if you went even cheaper than that, if you went down to like Mark Andrews, you could get back up to Gostowski, and actually you can get back up to Gus Edwards. So there's a lot of builds to play with. Like, okay, like even now, I'm just thinking if I go back up to Dobbins here or to Tannehill, can't quite get back down to or can't get to Gostowski there, but a lot of builds to think about. And I think the kind of the core plays, popular plays are going to be quarterbacks and Henry, and then choosing your favorite receiving option. I'm fading Corey Davis, fading Genu Smith, probably fading Snead and Boykin, fading Tucker, locking in the best values of the slate. It'll be the kickers. Defenses are GPP to me. Ferksker, probably and Ingram maybe are the ones that won't get you zero down there. So, good luck in the first game, and be on the lookout for other content for the other two games today. All right. See ya.